Hey, Dorian, I want to put you in on this because I said from day one with the election of President Obama, was this going to be the beginning of a movement, or was his election going to be a moment? And as I thought about March 2009, I long said that March 2009, the lack of anger or passion coming from this administration on those AIG bonuses, that really kick-started the Tea Party movement. It really set up this whole deal where people were saying, wait a minute, what happened to the person Hope and Change, Elizabeth Warren, Consumer Protection Bureau? So do you believe that as a result of what Occupy Wall Street movement is doing, they are forcing the president's hand to confront the income inequality, and they're telling him, look, you were playing the middle ground game. Now it's time for you to fight a lot harder against the very banks who you were frankly doing a dance with in the first 3 years.
Well, yes. I mean, that's what social movements do great. They force issues on the national agenda that neither party want to deal with. So think of the civil rights movement forcing the issues of Jim Crow onto Kennedy's and then Johnson's agenda. This is what the Occupy Wall Street movement is doing now. And in some ways, this is a Democratic Party problem, but this is bigger than the president. The Republicans have it easy. They know who they represent. They represent the richest 1%. The Democratic Party, on the other hand, represents Wall Street as well as represents workers and the middle class. So there's an internal dynamic, internal tension within the Democratic Party that makes it really hard for them to be clear about who they represent. And I think that's what the Occupy Wall Street protesters are forcing. They're forcing the party to decide, who are you going to represent in this democracy?
Wilmer, there's a lot of anger tied to Occupy Wall Street, but do you see them moving towards critical policy issues as opposed to saying we're just mad? We see the mayor of Oakland, she had to apologize after unleashing tear gas against protesters. All of a sudden, when you get the black Marine in New York telling the cops, how dare you do this? All of a sudden, now you have former Marines who are now joining this whole movement. I mean, all of a sudden, you have people who are saying we are angry and tired about this, but will they be able to affect public policy? Because that's really what you have to do.
Over time, yes. What I think a lot of people who are critical of the Occupy Wall Street, Occupy D.C., Occupy America movements, they're
actually, this has even gone across the world.
Oh, absolutely.
That's how.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking Spain, we're talking Italy, we're talking England. This is all over the world. What a lot of people fail to appreciate is that movements develop over time. The civil rights movement didn't come full form. It started with a bus boycott and wound up with a 65 voting rights bill. Right. So these things take time to develop. Yeah. One of the things that they have working to their advantage is technology.
Do you believe the GOP over the next several months will come to realize that it will work to their disadvantage if they are only looked upon as the people who are defending the richest 1%? Can the Democrats effectively take that message and say, look, you guys keep defending those tax cuts. You don't want any tax increases. You don't want anything like that. You're supporting these flat taxes during the campaign. You're supporting 999 or Rick Perry's new plan. Can the Democrats effectively use these arguments against the GOP to force them to get off of this no increase whatsoever position?
Roland, you mentioned Paul Ryan earlier, and who's from the state of Wisconsin. I think people realize now that what Governor Walker did early this year to attack public sector workers to balance the budget was not the right approach. The last time the GOP doubled down on representing the rich in the early part of the 20th century, there was a realignment in 1932 that Democrats won. The GOP was basically out of power for most of the 20th century in terms of Congress. So I think this is a really risky strategy they're taking.
Steve?
I think the GOP is going to continue what they've been doing, that they're going to basically not necessarily double down on representing the rich, but basically say what we have at stake here is an expansive government that wants to tell people how to live their lives and to take more from them. And so they'll mask their protection of the rich with other things that matter to white working class Americans that are angry about their situation. So I don't suspect that you're going to see the GOP coming out with the Occupy Wall Street crowd and saying, we understand where you're coming from.
But already, Deborah, Congressman Cantor, he backed off that ledge real quick.
Absolutely, because it's not not so much as it has been in previous elections, what the social conservatives are saying, which is why a Herman Cain is appealing. So it's both of them are playing their hands. The Republicans have the advantage right now. You know why? Because they've still got to fight it out on the stage. The golden boy, Barack Obama, is on stage for the for the Democrats, so they have the upper hand.
Wilmer?
Cantor backed down not because he needed to change his position, but because he was afraid of the opposition that was going to be in the room. The Republicans can't change because they're wedded to this ideology, and ideology doesn't negotiate. The problem with the Democrats is their plans right now aren't linked to any long-term strategy, and what they need to do is take this jobs bill and tie the jobs bill into a longer-term economic plan that they can demonstrate to people that this is not just a one-shot deal, but they actually have a focus and a direction for the future.
I've made the point that Occupy Wall Street should be a moral movement, not a political movement, that it's not about one party or the other. But I do believe that if the intensity continues, and if they also make a much quicker turn towards public policy, they can have a much greater impact than exactly what they're doing right now.